Hey you, welcome back to Secrets with Maeve, the space for the conversations we usually keep to ourselves. I'm Maeve. Today we're talking about something I know so many of us struggle with in silence. Why your type is keeping you single, the hard truth. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with something that might make you a little uncomfortable, but just please bear with me, okay? If you feel yourself getting a little defensive right away, midway, or at the end, it's okay. Just notice it. But ask yourself why. Because I guarantee if you stay with me, this is probably going to explain every single relationship that you have ever been in. Listen, you're not unlucky when it comes to love. Nothing is wrong with you, and you're not bad at choosing people necessarily just because there's a reason for that. That narrative that we all play in our head, it's not true. And honestly, it's unfair to you. So I'm going to explain something that will blow your mind like it did mine when I was studying this. What's actually happening is that you are choosing what your nervous system recognizes as familiar. And if you've had consultations with me, you know that I talk about this a lot because it makes total sense when it's actually explained properly. And until you understand why that feeling is familiar, you're going to keep repeating the same relationship with a different person, calling it chemistry or timing or fate when it is not. When I talk about this stuff, I'm specifically referencing the work of Dr. Tara Schwartz. She is phenomenal, but today I'm going to slow it down a little bit because this is one of those things that people hear, nod, and still don't really understand. But once you get it, it totally changes how you see yourself. It also changes how much you blame yourself, and it's just going to open your eyes a little bit. Most people think attraction is about looks, timing, or that chemistry, that spark that we like to say, like, I don't know, it just felt different, it just felt right. But attraction is not magic. Attraction, believe it or not, is just pattern recognition. Your brain and your nervous system are constantly scanning your entire environment for what feels known, what feels familiar, not what's healthy, not what's safe. Familiar. And familiar doesn't always mean good. Familiar means your body just knows how to survive that because it recognizes what it feels. This is a really important distinction between the two. Your nervous system learned what love felt like long before you had any type of explanation or language for it, before you had adult reasoning, okay? Before you could really analyze anything. You learned this as a child in your home through your first relationships with your parents, caregivers, or even the young relationships that we get into at a very young age. So whatever love felt like back then, calm, chaotic, conditional, distant, emotionally unpredictable, that became your internal blueprint. That same blueprint runs quietly in the background. You don't know it necessarily consciously and you don't choose it, but it heavily influences who you feel drawn to as an adult. I'm going to make it really simple and real because this is where some people usually have the oh moment. If you grew up feeling unseen, emotionally overlooked, or like you had to compete for attention or love, your nervous system learned that love feels distant. So later in life, when somebody shows up fully available for you, emotionally present, consistent, texting back, calling when they say they will, your body might actually feel a little bit uncomfortable and uneasy. And you might say things like, oh, they're really nice. I just don't feel it anymore. I don't know, something's missing. And they can't really pinpoint what that is. But then somebody else comes along. They're hot and cold. They give you just enough attention to keep you guessing. You're always wondering where you stand. And suddenly you are hooked. That lights you up because it's love, right? No, it's not love. It's because your nervous system recognizes that pattern. Your body goes, oh, I know this feeling. This feels familiar. That pull you feel isn't romance. That is just recognition. Now, let's talk about the people who had to earn their love. If love was always conditional growing up, praise when you performed, affection when you actually behaved well, approval when you succeeded, you learned that love equals effort and you have to fight for your love. So as an adult, you'll be attracted to partners who make you work for it, people who don't fully choose you, people who keep you slightly off balance. And you're going to find yourself overgiving over-explaining, and over-functioning. You'll justify it by saying things like, oh, I'm patient, I'm loyal, I don't give up easily, things like that. But really, it's your nervous system replaying a familiar role. Now, this scenario, let's talk about chaos, because this one hits so hard for a lot of people. If you grew up in a home where emotions were unpredictable, yelling, screaming, tension, walking on eggshells, your nervous system learned that intensity equals connection. So calm doesn't feel romantic. Calm feels boring and flat, and calm feels a little suspicious. You will also say things like, there's no spark. What you actually mean is, my nervous system isn't activated. Nothing's giving me that feeling. And this is something that people almost never realize. Your body doesn't know the difference between excitement and anxiety. It just knows that arousal feeling. So you have that racing heart, right? That obsession, that constant thinking about them, that is not passion. That is your body getting a little dysregulated. And that's why people confuse that intensity with intimacy all of the time. Intimacy feels steady. Intimacy feels good. Intimacy feels calm. But intensity feels urgent. Urgency comes from wounds. So let's talk about abandonment. If you experienced abandonment, emotional or physical, you will often be drawn to unavailable partners, people who can't fully show up for you, people who are always one foot in, one foot out. And the reason is pretty simple. Even though it's painful, your nervous system is trying to resolve that wound. It believes that if I can get this person to choose me, then I'll finally be worthy for them. But you don't heal abandonment by being chosen by somebody unavailable. You just reinforce that wound. Same with rejection, same with neglect, and same with control. You cannot heal inside the pattern that created that pain in the first place. That's the first step. You have to recognize that. This is why people keep asking, why does this keep happening to me? Valid question. I understand. But the answer is because the pattern hasn't changed yet. Now, let's talk about brain chemistry for a second, because this part matters more than people like to admit. Unpredictability releases dopamine. It's the same mechanism behind gambling or sex addictions. You don't get dopamine from certainty. You get dopamine from anticipation, uncertainty. So when somebody's inconsistent, your brain, it stays engaged, waiting, hoping, wondering. That creates that feeling of obsession. And obsession feels powerful, but obsession is not love. Love doesn't hijack your nervous system. Love doesn't make you abandon yourself, and love does not leave you constantly anxious or wondering what's going on. That is your body just in survival mode. Healthy attraction, what does that feel like? It feels grounded. It grows slowly. And it doesn't consume you in that negative, anxious way. And this is the part where people get a little scared. When you start actually healing and recognizing these patterns, your attraction starts to shift. And at first, it can feel wrong because it's unfamiliar. The people who are actually good for you, they're not going to activate your wounds ever. They will be clear, consistent, and emotionally available always. And your nervous system still might say, I don't feel anything. What it really means, like I said, is I am not dysregulated, I'm not activated. That doesn't mean that there's no chemistry. It means that there's no chaos. This is why healing can feel very lonely at first, because you grow out people that once felt magnetic to you. And that dynamic, it feels so unfamiliar. It makes you want to push that away. But unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. It means new. And new is good. Your nervous system needs to learn safety, or else you're never going to be safe. This is why also people sabotage healthy relationships. They pick the fights, they create the distance, they lose interest fast because it feels boring. Not because the person is wrong or bad for them, but the calm that they bring, it feels threatening to a nervous system that is trained in chaos and negativity. So, what do you do with this? First, stop feeling sorry for yourself and stop shaming yourself. These patterns were adaptive. They helped you survive once. But these survival patterns, they don't make a good relationship, and they don't make good relationship choices. Second, you need to stop asking, why do I attract people like this? And you need to start asking, what part of me recognizes this? And that's where the real work is, because you're going to get some answers. But finally, just understand this. You do not and cannot attract better partners by wanting better partners. No, you attract better partners by becoming safe within yourself and becoming that person that would attract somebody safe for you. When your nervous system finally heals, your attraction gets to recalibrate and you get a second chance. Consistency now becomes attractive. Clarity becomes super sexy and effort becomes normal. And the people that once had power over you, they don't even register anymore. They're like poof, gone. It's not because you're cold, but because you have outgrown them. And that's not avoidance. That is your evolution. So next time you start recognizing these patterns when you get into a new relationship, don't avoid it. Go inward with yourself and ask yourself, what is going on? I keep attracting this for a reason. What is that answer? When you finally get that answer, you can recognize it now in future relationships that you get into, and you can push that feeling down and go where it feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar, because that is the path to growth. Just trust me on that.